Welcome to Madame Raven's. This way to the library. She's been expecting you.
Three Stories by C J Cannatelli. Beelzebub's Big Time Bakery. Aaron Chase's walk home from the bus stop every Monday through Friday at around 5 in the evening had become an unbearable task for him. With age, his thigh muscles cried out in silent agony. Every day was the same monotonous routine that dulled his mind to the world around him. Aaron Chase was slowly growing old enough to retire. As he took his arduous route home, he found himself parallel to the rundown park across the street. To his right was a mile of abandoned buildings, or at least he had always believed them abandoned. Aaron cursed under his breath as the sky let out a cacophony of thunder, so monstrous that he questioned whether or not this was the beginning of the next great flood. When he reached the end of the block, he was absolutely drenched with rainwater. His eyes scanned the surrounding buildings as he pled silently to find shelter from the storm. Any open building would do. Aaron had to do a double-take when he saw he was standing in front of what appeared to be a newly renovated storefront. The building stood out in comparison to its dilapidated neighboring structures. This place was painted a pastel shade of mint green, with a sign scrawled above the double doors, written in a bubbly script. Beelzebub's Big Time Bakery. Not giving the name a second thought, Aaron rushed into the building for shelter so quickly that his briefcase fell open, its paper contents spilling out of it like a mudslide. Aaron once again swore angrily under his breath as he bent down in humiliation, rushing to gather his scattered belongings. He hadn't noticed the man leaving his space behind the counter to help him. "Having a shit day, I see, sir," the man said to Aaron, "if I'm not intruding." "Sorry to rush in here like this," Aaron said shamefully. "The rain." "We all have our bad days, son." The man laughed. "Call me lucky. All my best pals call me lucky." "So lucky," Aaron smiled. He glanced around the delicacies encased in glass. "Do you run this bakery?" "Sure do," Lucky confirmed with a chuckle. "All you gotta do is tell me what you want most out of life." Aaron's face contorted into a perplexed expression. No one had ever posed such a question to him in that manner, let alone a complete stranger. Aaron contemplated his response. Judging from the mile-long gaze Lucky wore, he was being serious. A hint of curiosity glinted in his radiant green eyes. Aaron took a moment to think about his words carefully. Growing up, Aaron's father had always taught him to select his words with caution. Aaron thought briefly about the chaotic, swirling crapstorm that his life had become. He worked a dead-end desk job at a company he didn't give a damn about. His boss hated him. He had no living relatives or friends to speak of. The only time anyone seemed to notice Aaron was when the marshal showed up at his door earlier that day to serve him with an eviction notice. "I wish I were dead," Aaron said flatly. Lucky clapped his hands together and belted out a roar of laughter. He scurried behind the counter and selected a cupcake from the case. It had pink frosting on it. "Then, my good sir, I'd like you to have this," Lucky said, approaching Aaron and shoving the cupcake into his palm. This one's on the house." Aaron let out a quiet chuckle. He'd never gotten a dang thing for free in his entire life. Now he was getting a cupcake. It certainly brought a smile to Aaron's face. He quickly devoured the cupcake, knowing that it would probably be a very long time before he had something so sweet again. "There, there," Lucky said, leading Aaron over to a chair in the corner of the room. "You'll get your wish. I run a business, but hell, can't a man enjoy baking and harvesting souls for the living simultaneously? Geez, society was so high-strung." "What?" Aaron gasped. "Souls of the living?" Aaron's body seemed to lock up. At first he thought it was fear. Then he remembered his days in college and his experimental drug use. He had overdosed quite a few times and barely lived to tell the tale. This was a familiar feeling. His entire body stung with the sensation of 1,000 pins and needles, jabbing through his flesh and giving Aaron a glimpse at his own mortality. "Oh, this one's a piece of cake," Lucky chuckled. "See, you'll be dead before I finish explaining. That cupcake was a contract. Since you've accepted a favor from me, I'm sure you're well aware of the price." "You're not the devil," Aaron gasped, trying desperately to regain control of his body. Aaron's bladder gave out, leaving a steady stream of urine sliding down his pant leg. "I'm the crown king of hell, thank you kindly," Lucky giggled. "Beelzebub is the name. Soul-snatching is the game." Aaron's world collapsed into a realm of darkness, and his eyes closed for the final time. Beelzebub, a very lucky demon, snapped his fingers once, and it were as though Aaron had never, ever been there. This was, of course, the perfect location to run such an operation. Those who seek nothing will receive nothing. They will walk by an abandoned building without a second thought. Lucky really did love rainy days like this, because the customers seemed so eager to come inside whenever they could, even if they entered the devil's workshop, just to get away from the violent wind and falling water droplets. Beelzebub stood up and greeted his next customer. Devil's Delinquents. Okay, I'm not really good at text posts. Anyone who follows my Tumblr blog knows that for sure. That all I do is post fashion, food, and felines. I'm in over my head with this one, but hopefully my small army of followers might be able to give me some insight as to what the hell is going on here. It started about 3 weeks ago. You know the blog Kelly R8? Almost every one of my followers were also her followers as well. She ran that Louis Vuitton fashion blog. I reblogged her photos at least once or twice a day. She was the one with the really amazing custom Louis Vuitton theme, and her profile photo appeared to be her. She had glassy blue eyes and platinum blonde hair. She made a really long text post one afternoon. I never read text posts, but the title was, "Read this, please. Please, I need help." At the time, I didn't really think to save the text post. It was talking about this game called The Devil's Delinquents. Basically, it's a chainmail game. If someone nominates you by sending you a death threat accompanied with directions on how to play, you have to write a disturbing, anonymous message to 6 different people about how you think they're going to die. By sending your threats to 6 people, you pick 6 people to send their message next. It sounds childish, but there's more to it than that. For example, in Kelly R8's post, it said that the night after she played the game, she was up at 3 in the morning playing indie games on her computer. At first, she began to hear whispering. As she took her headset off and listened, she realized that the house was silent, except for the whispers that sounded like they were coming from right next to her ear. Panic. She turned on the lights, but it didn't help her much. She could clearly hear a man's deep voice reciting the message she sent to those people. She made one final post later that day, but it sounded like she was losing her mind. She wrote that whatever you sent as a chainmail is how you will be killed. So in her case, she wrote that the victim of the chainmail would die by having all of their nerves severed. Last week, I went to write something in Kelly R8's Ask box just to see if she was okay, but her Tumblr had been deleted. Today, in my Ask box, I got a chain letter under the title Devil's Delinquents. If I comply, will I be killed? If I don't send out any chain letters, will I still have to die? All I can remember is Kelly R8 saying that she had to send out the threats because if she didn't, the death threat she had received upon initiation into this effed up game would be her manner of death. Please help me. To give up smoking. My name is Cynthia. I started smoking Newport cigarettes when I was 9 years old. I'm currently 31. I'm recently divorced and unable to have children, but I had hoped to adopt a little one. Hell, even a teenager. I don't really care. I just wanted someone to keep me company to end the every night routine of eating a pint of ice cream, smoking 3 packs of cigarettes, and watching reruns of the sitcoms from the 80s. Hell, if I didn't have work 4 days a week, I'd never leave my couch. I'm overweight, balding in my early 30s, and looking for something more productive to do with my life. I had been watching the Times Square New Year's Eve event alone in my shitty apartment. Some celebrity had been asking random people in the crowd about their New Year's resolutions. Some wanted a new car, some wanted a better job, some had their priorities really messed up. It was just the usual New York garbage I'd been dealing with my whole life. I'd always meant to have a list of at least 3 resolutions, but either never thought of anything or never followed through. It was strange, the commercial I saw. It had bright colors and a woman dancing with some cute guy in some sort of studio. The music was louder than normal television volume, and it immediately grabbed my attention, startling me because of the sudden noise. A woman's voice began speaking over the upbeat music. New year, new you. Tired of wasting your time, your money, and your health on that nasty cigarette habit? Ask your doctor if Fumafur is right for you. Fumafur? Fumafur? Was this some kind of new method to give up smoking? I put out my cigarette in the ashtray on the end table and perked up a bit. Fumafur is 1 simple pill a day for 30 days. It must be prescribed by your doctor. Fumafur may help you lose weight, so ask your doctor if Fumafur is right for you. It's a win-win. Not only could I finally kick the cigarette to the curb, but I could potentially lose weight. There was this new diet plan my coworker Ashley had been bragging about. Normally I don't feed into that sort of hype, but I watched her lose so much weight in only a month that I had to ask her for the brochure. I was sure it was still in my purse. Side effects may include abnormal sleep, loss of appetite, sore throat, headache, nausea, skin rash, mild constipation, or new and worsening mood changes. Contact your doctor immediately if you experience... I wasn't listening anymore. I put my ice cream down, opened my laptop, and logged into my doctor's patient portal. I loved this new portal thing because I could log in, check when he was available, and see what appointments have been canceled. It's much easier to get an appointment, and I can even let him know what the appointment is for. A few years ago, it took weeks to get an appointment. This system made sure I could easily get in whenever I wanted to. I had decided on my 3 resolutions. I got an appointment with the doctor to discuss weight loss, quitting smoking, and possibly getting my hair to grow back. In a few minutes, one of the 24-hour service people confirmed my appointment for January 2nd at 9 a.m. and let me know that my physician always recommends this over-the-counter cream unless I have a skin condition. She also wrote that if I am wary of it, wait to ask the doctor. I looked up the stuff and saw amazing results, so I ordered a 6-month supply and had it delivered on the same day as my appointment. I decided that once that ball dropped, I wasn't going to bed. I was going to actually clean my apartment. I'd just gotten one of those new fancy coffee makers with the little pods. I made myself a cup and sipped it as the new year was celebrated in New York City. I spent the entirety of New Year's Day cleaning my apartment from top to bottom. New year, new me, right? I basically had to go through everything I owned because I'd become quite the pack rat, leaving me with limited space. After filling 14 large garbage bags with things I didn't want to bring into the new year with me, I carried them 3 or 4 at a time to the dumpster in the back of my apartment building. Coffee after coffee, and the entire place was spotless. I even got around to unpacking 2 boxes from when I had moved in years ago. I remembered that I used to wear significantly smaller clothes, and instead of throwing them all out, I organized my closet. The fat clothes on the left, the new year, new me clothes on the right. It was 5 in the evening and I was exhausted. Satisfied with my new, clean apartment, I went to bed early, knowing I would need to be well rested for my appointment the following morning. The doctor seemed to be in a rush. He told me the brand of hair cream I was using was great and gave me 2 new prescriptions. The first was an appetite suppressant, and the second was my new, exciting wonder drug. I went to the pharmacy and got them both filled immediately. Then I went to the grocery store and actually bought healthy food to cook, and not something I would throw in the microwave for 2.5 minutes. I made myself a nice dinner for the first time since I was in my early 20s. I took both the pills and felt fine. All those side effect warnings were bull, as usual. I decided a reasonable new bedtime would be 10. I tucked myself in and found it difficult to fall asleep. I thought about maybe getting a feline companion to keep me company. I dropped the idea when I realized I'm compulsive and would immediately become a crazy cat lady. Eventually, I think I fell asleep, but it wasn't like anything I remember. I think it was a dream, but I can't be sure. I was lying on my back, seeing the room around me shrouded in the darkness of the night. I thought I was awake and struggling, trying to move. My limbs felt too heavy to even twitch, and I got very nervous. I could have sworn I saw moving shadows out of the corner of my eye. I'm not sure when it happened, but I jolted awake, soaked with sweat and gasping loudly. It was just a dream, I thought, trying to calm myself down. I remembered reading some article online about sleep paralysis. I wondered if that's what I had experienced. I checked the clock to see it was about 20 minutes before my alarm went off. I got dressed up in my favorite red blouse with the buttons and put on a skirt for the first time in as long as I could remember. I was surprised it fit. I even went as far as to put on a pair of uncomfortable heels, but I would just be at my desk. I spent extra time on my hair and makeup, feeling proud of how I looked. New year, new me. Everyone at the office complimented my appearance. Cindy from accounting said I looked like a brand new woman. I was beaming with pride, and on my lunch break I went outside to smoke, but decided against it. I threw my pack of cigarettes away and went to the little deli across the street to get myself a salad. I went to the break room instead of eating at my desk and got many kind words and compliments. I bragged about my new attitude and lifestyle choices and received nothing but support. Fast forward a week and a half. I lost 12 pounds, dropped a dress size, and noticed my legs appeared thinner. I was ecstatic. It didn't come without hard work, and it didn't come without side effects. I found myself vomiting every morning, and it had become a ritual. I would only eat 2 small meals a day and a smoothie I would make after work. I didn't notice the hair growth cream working, and I knew it was supposed to take a month, but I didn't want to wait. Everything else about me looked better. I went and got my nails done, and they looked just as fancy as the younger girls in the office. I had saved a large sum of money for a new car, but decided the car could wait. I basically paid $3,000 to get hair put in and then have some kind of electricity thing scheduled once a week for 3 weeks. I was assured that if my hair was not growing normally within those 3 weeks, I would receive a full refund. I had only been to one grueling, painful session, but my head definitely felt different. The fake hair looked so real. I was told it would fall out when real hair grew into its place. So it sounded like everything was going great, right? There were problems. Every night I could only sleep a few hours. The night terrors and the sleep paralysis progressively got worse, leading me to upgrade from coffee to espresso and to buy Adderall from a coworker. I'm not going to lie. I was hyper all the time and full of energy, but my body ached, and I knew I needed more sleep. I brushed it off and decided that if it got worse, I would go back to the doctor. It was day 13 of the Fumifure that something very strange happened. I was in a meeting with my coworkers giving a presentation. Everyone in the room loved the advertising idea, and I was praised. I was always a very bubbly person, always smiling to the point that it takes 20 minutes to cover my laugh lines with makeup in the morning. Then Cindy spoke up. I like the presentation, she said. Fiscally, however, this isn't going to work. Normally I would have smiled and asked her to explain and let me know what we could change. Disagreements happened all the time, but I'm not one to ever really get emotional. I always chuckle, apologize if I've wronged someone, and generally be kind to others, just like my mother taught me. No one was ever mean to me, and if they were, I would reply so kindly that they would always be nicer after. My smile drooped into a frown I didn't know I was capable of. What do you mean? I said, suddenly feeling like I was holding back tears. It's a minor adjustment, she clarified. We may want to start with only 5,000 or 6,000 brochures. Test the waters and... No! I gasped, feeling a tear slide down my cheek. My behavior was not my own, and I was not in control. I literally stomped my feet twice like a child throwing a temper tantrum. No! 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 Stop it! Ashley and Cindy exchanged confused expressions. Then Ashley got up and approached me nervously. "Cynthia, are you all right?" she gasped. "You're not yourself. What's going on?" "Nobody ever appreciates me," I said, raising my voice and shaking my head repeatedly. I compulsively began to slap myself repeatedly in the face. Everyone in the room gasped, and Ashley made a move to grab my wrists. "Oh my gosh," she said, wrapping me in a hug. "Honey, no, 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 we love you. This isn't about you. You're great, perfect even, please. I think you're having some kind of problem, and we should get you checked out. This isn't okay. I'm worried. We're all worried." I suddenly felt humiliated. I covered my face and sobbed loudly, running out of the room and tripping over my high heels. I fell to the floor and curled into a ball, admitting defeat and screaming loudly. Before I knew it, I was rushed in an ambulance and brought to the local hospital. After evaluation and being given a sedative, I felt like my old self again. I felt humiliated and ridiculous for what had happened, but Ashley stood by my side and insisted I didn't do anything wrong, and nobody was judging me. The doctor said I have a nervous breakdown, probably due to all the major life changes I was dealing with. Ashley held my hand and smiled at me. "See, you're all right, and I'm so proud of you," Ashley said, reassuringly. The doctor sent me home with a month's worth of sedatives to take when I get nervous. I was told to get refills from my doctor. They weighed me once I calmed down, and I couldn't believe it. That day alone, I was down 3 pounds. Ashley decided to drive me home that night, promising to pick me up for work the next morning, so I could just take my car home the next day. She stayed with me. We cooked dinner together, and I told her about my 2 sides of the closet. She insisted that my clothes were starting to look way too big on me, and basically rushed me into the bedroom to try on small clothes. I fit into about half of the outfits, and we decided to pop open a bottle of wine I'd gotten for Christmas. I hesitated because I remember the package on the fumifure saying something about not drinking, but Ashley promised it would be fine. "You're home," she said with a laugh, pouring 2 completely filled wine glasses and handing one to me. "Hell, if you lend me that blue dress, I'll stay the night and keep an eye on you. No need to pick you up tomorrow morning. We'll just go in together." "You really want to?" I asked. No one ever wanted to keep me company. "Uh-huh," Ashley said. "Cynthia, you're really a great friend. I hope we can be best friends. You're like the big sister I never got to have." Ashley and I had a wild night together. We stayed up way too late and eventually passed out in the living room with Madonna songs playing on repeat. This is when the night terrors changed dramatically. I wasn't just seeing shadows anymore. They weren't shadows at all. The large window behind the sofa I slept on had black shadow hands reaching out and trying to grab me. The heating system went on automatically with a soft rumble. I was frozen and paralyzed in a dreamlike state, once again unable to move my limbs. I became paranoid, or at least I think I was being paranoid. I thought the heating system was talking about hurting me, and when the ice maker in the freezer made that annoying sound it always makes, in my mind, it was a refrigerator talking to the heating system about raping me and Ashley. I woke up screaming. I startled Ashley awake, and she began forcing me to swallow sedatives while I screamed and cried about the appliances trying to rape us. After an hour, I calmed down and felt fine again. This had really scared the crap out of Ashley, though. Ashley gave me the phone number for her psychiatrist. She confided in me that she took antidepressants, and she said I needed to call her. Ashley and I both took the day off work, and she drove me to the appointment. I was considered urgent enough to get me right in. Ashley waited in the car and took a nap, I think. I talked to the psychiatrist and told her about the sedatives. I felt like I was hiding the fact that I was taking diet supplements and Fumifur. I don't know why, but I felt ashamed of who I had once been, and I was about halfway through my month-long plan. A couple of incidents were no reason to spoil it. Plus, I couldn't open the can of worms of me buying Adderall. She seemed to think it was stress, prescribed me a stronger sedative, and even gave me a sleep medication. She warned me that it could be very addictive and that she would only write it for a month to regulate my sleep schedule. Ashley took me to my car. We hugged and agreed to do brunch the next day. I filled my new prescription and realized I'd spent an awful lot of time in pharmacies these days. I had a lot of time to kill, so I walked down Main Street and looked at all the stores. I wasn't saving for a car anymore, and I thought treating myself would help brighten up the bad week I was having. I bought a lot of new clothes, and for some reason, when I tried some of them on, they were too big. I wasn't sure how, but the size I had tried on the night before was too loose, and the woman suggested a size 2. I hadn't been a size 2 since college. I bounced up and down happily and bought a dozen bags to my car, ignoring the fact that I had just blown over $500. I decided new year, new me. I even went down to this place. Down the street, Cindy had gotten her adjustments made. I had wrinkles, and with my hair sorted out, I wondered if I could get injections like her. Her face looked so great. They tried to warn me that insurance didn't cover it. It was quite expensive, and there was a lot of risks. Blah, blah, blah. I realized if I played my cards right, I could get this done. I paid more than I bargained for and was told to go home and not take this little bandage off for 2 hours. I was told to lie down and put cold bag of peas on my face for the 2 hours. I rushed home. I didn't bother to put my new clothes away and listen to music while I waited. The concept of time just didn't make sense to me anymore. What felt like 1 minute had actually been an hour and a half. I just didn't understand time anymore, and I wondered what the drugs could possibly be doing to my brain. I was so close to being the perfect woman. And I even heard that one of the corporate attorneys was planning to ask me to dinner. My face felt numb, and apparently it would stay that way for as long as 2 weeks. I looked in the mirror and was happy enough with the results. New year, new me. Less time putting on makeup in the morning because those lines were gone, baby. I decided to stop the appetite suppressant that night. I figured if I kept eating healthily, I could maintain my new weight. I did, however, take the new sleeping medication and the Fumifur. It was all right at first. I had dreams that were strange, but no paralysis. I woke up in the middle of the night, groggy and confused. I think I went to the kitchen and got seltzer water. Next thing I know, I'm back in bed, frozen in my body. This time things were so much worse. I heard voices telling me to do horrible things, telling me that everyone hated me, and the hands were touching me. I could feel them grabbing and pulling the skin off my bones. I shot awake 10 minutes before my alarm and gripped my head. I felt hungover and confused. I immediately took a shit ton of Adderall and drank espresso to try and break me out of this fog I was in. By the time I finished my shower, I was back to normal. Well, sort of. The voices were still there, even though I wasn't dreaming. I heard an occasional whisper that sounded like my name, and I was beginning to think the curling iron was the one doing the talking. I thought about it as I applied makeup to my aching face, gently, and realized it didn't make sense. The curling iron had to take orders from someone, and I knew it was the refrigerator. Every now and again during my morning routine, I would argue with the voices. Eventually, I realized I could hear them, but they couldn't hear me. That's because they were using remote-controlled alien technology from another universe to control the appliances and get them to speak English to me. But the appliances themselves couldn't understand anything I said. It was a one-sided conversation, basically. Even if the aliens heard me through the microphones they put in my apartment, they wouldn't answer. Otherwise, the CIA would come, and I would know too much. The people on that morning news show could hear the voices, too, and I chuckled every time one of them stopped talking to listen to the voices. It's like they would forget what they were going to say because they were being interrupted. I realized I was given a gift, and they were only threatening to rape me and to make me kill all the microbes to gain control over me. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction. And eventually I learned to tune out the voices. I arrived at work right on time and realized that they had bugged the office too. The surround sound was playing jazz music and whispering I couldn't understand, and the lights seemed to be too bright. I realized not everyone in the office was smart enough to know what was going on, so I kept my information to myself. I didn't want the CIA to come and get me. Work was a blur. Countless pills were taken every time the voices got to be too much to handle. I even started seeing the shadows and the hands, but the pills made it easier because they kept a smile on my face. No one noticed that I knew the secrets. I got home late and took my Fumafure and my sleeping medication. While I waited for the sleeping medication to work, I checked my email and turned on some music to drown out the voices. I had over a dozen emails from my doctor's office telling me to call them immediately because there's an emergency. I picked up my cell phone, which was still on silent from the day at work, and I had 3 missed calls. I couldn't focus on the doctor's words in the voicemails, but I recognized it was his voice and not a secretary. He said something about psychiatric medical records coming in and something about Fumafure. I couldn't understand his garbled speech, so I figured he was reminding me to take it and saying it was good that I went to see a psychiatrist. That had to be the point. Maybe he was praising me. I couldn't focus on the phone over the sound of voices, and I had to hurry and type out an email to his office, thanking them for the Fumafure and letting them know I haven't smoked a single cigarette since I began my treatment. I knew I had to follow through the entire 30 days, though, just like the box said. I didn't want to risk getting back into that nasty habit. I had to stop typing mid-sentence and send the email as it was. It was getting difficult to read what I wrote, and I realized that the message didn't say anything I wanted it to. It was so riddled with typos and weird phrases that I didn't remember what I'd meant to type. I figured they'd understand it because they're doctors and all that, right? So I sent it as it was. Within minutes, I fell asleep right there on the couch. I was once again frozen, and all the voices were telling me a message. I tried my best to make it out and twitch my fingers, but everything was so confusing. The shadows were no longer just hands and vague figures. I saw shadow men I recognized as the alien leadership in charge. They were telling me the CIA was planning to take me to a place far away so I couldn't tell the world about the real alien government. I began hearing banging sounds coming from the kitchen. It sounded like knocking, and I vaguely heard two men screaming for me to open the door. I realized it was the CIA and tried desperately to wake up, but I couldn't budge an inch, no matter how hard I tried. I heard a crash, and then I remember hearing voices, but they sounded human. The shadows promised to hide me, and blackness consumed me. I woke up this morning in a hospital bed with my arm strapped down and a needle in my arm. I realized I was being held hostage by the CIA. The voices were making me bite my tongue until it bled, and a loud beeping sound came from the right side of the room. A few people in hospital scrubs ran into the room and began checking my mouth. It was bleeding a lot, and they put some kind of alien device in my mouth, like a gag so I couldn't close my teeth. I tried to talk to them, but I slurred in a way I've never heard myself speak before, and the hard plastic piece was stopping me from closing my mouth. A man in a white coat rushed to my side and began yelling at the nurses. "Give me morphine, quickly, quickly," he said, securing gloves on his hand and applying some kind of gauze to the inside of my mouth. Everything just felt wet, and then everything felt numb. I could still hear the voices and see the shadows, but it was as if none of it made any sense to me. They were trying to stop me from communicating. My eyes darted around the room very quickly. My body was once again impossible to move, but I was awake and I knew it. I saw a nurse accept something from the doctor with his hands in my mouth, and I think they thought I was asleep. I saw what appeared to be my tongue being put into one of those little plastic cups they use for urine samples. Once the doctor finished whatever he was doing, my eyes were closed, but I could hear him more clearly over the jumble of voices. "Psychosis. Clear case," he said to someone in the room. "Probably much worse, but we'll need to see the MRI results. I need you to contact her next of kin and let them know she's being committed legally, and if they want to fight in court, so be it." None of these words seemed to make sense to me. Everything was so clear, and yet it sounded like I was underwater. I heard his voice echo, and then I heard a very familiar voice. I think it might have been my doctor's voice, but I can't be sure. Shit, I heard him say. I've never heard him swear before. I couldn't get in contact with Cynthia to let her know about the Fumifur recall. She sent this bizarre email to my staff, and I called her an ambulance. They kicked in her door, and thank God they did. He sounded quite upset. The doctor who had taken my tongue away let out a strange, almost chuckle. "These things happen to the best of us. Permanent brain damage is likely, but we won't know for sure until the results come through." "I feel terrible about this," my doctor said. "I had no idea." "No one did," the man interrupted. "Not our problem. Let the pharmaceutical company get the crap suit out of them by this girl's family. I think her parents are coming from upstate to voluntarily give us the go-ahead, so we'll have some time on this whole legal BS. Her mother is my friend," the man sighed. "Crap, what the freak am I going to tell her?" The strange man laughed quietly. "I don't get paid enough to give you life advice." A female laughed and sounded like she was talking to the strange doctor. It sounded like they were leaving because even though they sounded far away before, they sounded even further in the distance, and in moments I couldn't hear them at all. I could just hear some weird gargling noise that left me feeling anxious and a bit confused. I don't know if you can hear me, my doctor said. Cynthia, I'm so sorry. Crap. Of course you can't hear me. Get a hold of yourself, Jack, right? Okay? You're talking to a vegetable. I need a drink. So quoth this raven. And, my darlings, I have many more wonderful stories from CJ to share with you that I will do in the future. I hope you enjoyed these. And a special thanks to all of you for watching. And especially my Patreon supporters, Ermin Case, Jennifer, and Darren Daw. I got that opposite this time. Don't know why. And Callist Enoch. Thank you, my darlings. If you like this, please hit the little button to let me know. If you didn't, hit the little button to let me know. Leave a comment. I'm always glad to talk with you, my darlings. I'm open to suggestions and criticisms, critiques. If you have not subscribed, please do so and ring the little bell so you know when to come up and see me. And I will talk to you next time, my darlings. Farewell.